Welcome back to State Quarter. And before you scroll past this, take a second to imagine this. What if the quarter sitting in your cup holder right now could be worth more than a brand new luxury car? Not someday, not in a fantasy auction, but in real life, real money, and real collectors fighting to own it. Today we're diving deep into one of the most iconic and emotionally powerful coins ever struck in American history. The 1776 and 1976 Bicentennial Washington Quarter with the D mint mark, a coin that celebrates the birth of a nation and, in rare high-grade condition, has stunned the market with values, climbing as high as $89,200. This coin was created to honor America's 200th birthday, a once-in-a-lifetime moment that transformed every day. Pocket change into a national symbol. Instead of the traditional eagle on the reverse, this quarter features a colonial drummer boy standing proudly, torch raised, victory and independence echoing through the design. When it first entered circulation, millions of Americans held one in their hands, spent it at gas stations, grocery stores, and arcades, never realizing that a tiny fraction of these coins would one day become elite, collectibles commanding five-figure, and even near six-figure prices in the highest grades. The Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of these quarters in 1975 and 1976, all carrying the dual date, 1776 and 1976, to commemorate the bicentennial. Most of them are still worth face value today, but here's where the story gets thrilling. Within that massive production run are a handful of coins that survived in absolutely pristine, flawless condition. These are the coins that were never dropped, never scraped, never dulled by circulation. Their surfaces remain blazing with original mint luster, their details razor-sharp, their fields mirror-like and clean under magnification. These are the coins that grading services like PCGS and NGC label as mint, state 68 and above, a level so rare that it transforms a 25-cent piece into a trophy asset for serious collectors. Let's talk about what separates an ordinary bicentennial quarter from a record-breaking one. First, the strike quality. High-grade examples show full detail in the drummer boy's uniform, every fold in the clothing crisp, every drumline bold and complete. Washington's hair on the obverse should be sharply defined, with no softness in the curls or flattening around the ear. Then there's the luster, that glowing, almost liquid sheen that dances across the coin when you tilt it under the light. The best examples look like they were struck yesterday, not half a century ago. Now imagine finding one of these coins that has never been touched by circulation, never slid across a counter, never stacked in a jar. These ultra-gem examples are so scarce that when they appear at major auctions, the room goes quiet, and then the bidding erupts. Collectors know they're not just buying a coin. They're buying a piece of American history frozen in perfect condition. That's how we've seen top-tier bicentennial Washington quarters with the D mint mark achieve jaw-dropping results, with auction prices soaring up to $89,200 for the finest certified specimens. But condition alone isn't the only factor that drives these values. Eye appeal plays a massive role. Some of the highest-priced examples feature stunning natural toning, with rainbow hues of blue, gold, and violet framing Washington's portrait and glowing around the drummer boy. This kind of toning isn't damage. It's a badge of authenticity and beauty, created by decades of proper storage and natural aging. When a coin combines perfect surfaces, blazing luster, sharp strike, and breathtaking color, it becomes irresistible to elite collectors. Here's where it gets personal for you. These coins are still out there. They're in old mint sets tucked away in drawers, in inherited collections, and sometimes even hiding in everyday change. The key is knowing what to look for. Flip your quarter over and check for the dual date, 1976. Then, look for the small D mint mark, just to the right of Washington's ponytail on the obverse. Examine the coin under good light. If it looks unusually shiny with no visible scratches, no dullness, and strong detail, you might be holding something special. Even if it doesn't reach the legendary top grade, high-quality uncirculated examples can still be worth far more than face value, sometimes tens or even hundreds of dollars depending on condition. But for the few that reach the absolute pinnacle of grading, the reward can be life-changing. Imagine sending in a quarter you found in a forgotten collection and getting it back certified as one of the finest known examples. Suddenly, that small, humble coin becomes a headline piece, a star of major auctions, a coin that serious collectors around the world compete to own. The 1976 Bicentennial Washington quarter with the D mint mark isn't just currency. It's a celebration of freedom, history, and the incredible idea that treasure can still be hiding in plain sight. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, don't just see spare change. See possibility. See history. See the chance that a single quarter, struck to honor 200 years of a nation's journey, could one day change yours? If this story just made you want to grab a magnifying glass and start searching, you're in the right place. Like this video, follow State Quarter, and subscribe for more deep dives into the coins that turn ordinary people into modern-day treasure hunters. Because the next record-breaking discovery might not be in a museum or a vault. It might be sitting on your desk right now, waiting for you to notice it. Next up, we're talking about the 1966 Washington quarter with no mint mark, a coin born during a national coin shortage, struck in a time when the U.S. Mint made bold, almost secretive decisions, and in its rarest, highest-grade form, has reached market values climbing toward an incredible $41,000. To understand why this quarter is so fascinating, you have to step back into the mid-1960s, when America was facing a major coin shortage. People were hoarding silver coins as bullion prices rose, pulling change out of circulation faster than the mint could replace it. The response was dramatic. The mint removed silver from quarters and switched to a copper-nickel-clad composition starting in 1965. At the same time, they made an unusual move. Mint marks were temporarily removed from all coins between 1965 and 1967. The idea was simple. Stop collectors from hoarding coins from specific mints and get more change, flowing back into everyday use. That's why your 1966 quarter doesn't say P, D, or S. It was struck in Philadelphia. But the mint kept that detail deliberately hidden. Millions of these quarters were made, and most of them spent decades bouncing between pockets, vending machines, and cash registers. They're common in circulated condition, often worn, scratched, and dull. But here's the twist. Within that ocean of ordinary coins exists a tiny group of survivors that never entered circulation at all. These coins were pulled aside straight from the mint, preserved in original rolls or government packaging, and protected from the wear that destroys value. These are the pieces that can explode in price when they achieve elite grade certification. Now picture what a top-tier 1966 Washington quarter looks like under magnification. Washington's portrait on the obverse is bold and sculpted, every strand of hair crisp, the cheek and jawline smooth and free of marks. The fields around him shine like glass, reflecting light in smooth, uninterrupted waves of mint luster. Flip the coin over and the eagle stands proud, with sharp feather detail, full definition in the wings, and clean, open spaces in the background. There are no distracting nicks, no hairline scratches, no cloudy patches, just a flawless, factory fresh. Look, that feels almost impossible for a coin that's nearly 60 years old. This is where the grading scale becomes everything. Coins that reach mint state 67 and higher enter a different world entirely. At that level, you're no longer competing with thousands of examples. You're competing with a handful. These are the coins that get highlighted in auction catalogs, photographed under professional lighting, and described as finest known or top. Population. When one of these elite specimens appears, collectors who specialize in high-grade Washington quarters step in aggressively because they know opportunities like this don't come often. That's how we've seen top examples of the 1966 no mint mark. Quarter achieved breathtaking results, pushing toward that $41,000 mark. But there's another layer to the story that makes this coin even more intriguing. The early copper nickel clad quarters were notoriously difficult to strike perfectly. The new composition didn't flow into the dies as smoothly as silver, which means fully struck, sharply detailed examples are much harder to find. That's why high-grade 1966 quarters often show incredible contrast between flat, ordinary pieces and the rare, fully struck gems. When you find one with complete feather detail on the eagle and strong definition in Washington's hair, you're already looking at something special. Collectors also pay close attention to the surface quality and eye appeal. Some of the highest value coins display beautiful, subtle toning, soft golds, pale blues, or gentle champagne hues that frame the design without overpowering it. This kind of natural coloration adds personality and uniqueness, turning a technically perfect coin into a visual masterpiece. In the world of high-end numismatics, beauty can be just as powerful as rarity when it comes to driving prices. Now imagine this scenario. You open an old box of family keepsakes, maybe a roll of coins from a grandparent's drawer. And there it is, a 1966 quarter that looks almost too clean to be real. No heavy wear, no dullness, just bright surfaces and sharp detail. You send it off to a professional grading service, and weeks later, it comes back sealed in a holder with a grade that puts it among the best examples known. Suddenly, a coin that once bought a cup of coffee is now being discussed in the same breath as high-end collectibles and serious investments. That's the magic of the 1966 Washington Quarter with no mint mark. It's a product of a strange, transitional moment in American history, a symbol of change in the nation's money, and proof that rarity isn't always about low mintage numbers. It's about survival in perfect condition. Most of these coins lived hard lives in circulation. Only a few escaped untouched, and those are the ones that now command extraordinary attention and extraordinary prices. So the next time you're sorting through change, don't just listen for the clink of coins. Listen for the story they tell. Look for the quarter with the eagle on the back, the clean rim, the sharp details, and the glow that stands out from the rest. Because hidden among the most ordinary-looking coins of the 1960s is the potential for a modern treasure, one that connects you to a pivotal era in U.S. history, and, in the rarest cases, to a value that can reach into the tens of thousands of dollars. Next up, the 1969 Washington Quarter with no mint mark doesn't scream rarity at first glance. It looks ordinary, familiar, almost forgettable. But under the surface, this coin represents the final chapter of a turbulent decade in U.S. coinage. And in its rarest, highest-grade form, it has stunned collectors by reaching values as high as $25,275. By 1969, the United States, mint was finally settling into the new reality of copper-nickel-clad coinage. Silver was gone from quarters for good, and the public had grown, used to the lighter color and different ring of the new metal. Mint marks had returned in 1968, but the Philadelphia Mint still struck coins without a mint mark, which is why the 1969 quarter appears plain to the untrained eye. No letter, no obvious clue. Just George Washington facing left, the eagle standing firm on the reverse, and a coin that millions of Americans spent without a second thought. Most of these quarters lived rough lives. They were passed endlessly through cash registers, scraped against other coins, dulled by years of circulation, and eventually lost in couch cushions or car consoles. That's exactly why the story of the 1969 no mint mark quarter becomes so powerful when you focus on condition. Out of the massive number originally struck, only a microscopic fraction survived in truly flawless, untouched form. Those few survivors are the reason this coin has become a sleeper favorite among high-grade collectors. Picture what a top-level example looks like when you hold it under a strong light. The fields are smooth and vibrant, reflecting light in clean, rolling waves. Washington's portrait shows crisp hair detail, with no flatness on the high points of the cheek or jaw. The lettering is bold, perfectly squared, and free of weakness. Turn the coin over and the eagle's feathers appear sharp and well-defined, each line distinct, each wing fully formed. The rims are clean and complete, with no nicks or flattening to break the circular frame. This is the kind of quality that almost never survives decades of handling. High-grade specialists know just how difficult it is to find a 1969 quarter that meets these standards. Early clad coins were notorious for weak strikes and surface issues, and the mint was still refining its techniques. As a result, fully struck examples with exceptional surface preservation are dramatically scarcer than mintage figures suggest. When a 1969 quarter earns an elite grade such as Mint State, 67 or higher from a major grading service, it instantly becomes a high-level collectible rather than just another date in a set. This is where the market excitement begins. Collectors building top population. Washington quarter sets compete fiercely for the finest known examples. These are not casual buyers. They're advanced numismatists who understand population reports, strike quality, and eye appeal. When a premium 1969 no mint mark quarter appears at auction with blazing luster and near-perfect surfaces, bidding can escalate quickly. That competitive pressure is what has driven prices to astonishing heights, with record sales climbing to around $25,275. Eye appeal plays a huge role in these results. Some of the most valuable examples show delicate, natural toning that enhances the design rather than distracting from it. Soft golds, pale silvers, or hints of pastel color can frame Washington's portrait and give the coin a refined, almost elegant presence. Combined with pristine surfaces and a sharp strike, this visual beauty can push a great coin into the realm of a truly elite one. What makes this coin especially thrilling is how easily it can be overlooked. Unlike coins with flashy errors or obvious mint marks, the 1969 Philadelphia quarter blends in perfectly with everyday change. That means there are still unsearched rolls, forgotten collections, and inherited coin boxes where a high-grade example could be hiding. The key is learning how to look beyond the date and focus on condition. If a 1969 quarter looks unusually clean, bright, and sharply detailed, it deserves a second look and possibly professional grading. Imagine discovering one tucked away in an old roll that hasn't been opened in decades. You send it off for grading, unsure of what to expect, and it comes back sealed in a holder that places it among the finest known examples. In that moment, the coin transforms. It's no longer just a quarter. From the late 1960s, it's a certified rarity, a piece of numismatic history, and a tangible reminder that incredible value can exist in the most unassuming places. The 1969 Washington quarter, with no mint mark, tells a story of transition, survival, and hidden potential. It represents the end of an era, the refinement of modern coinage, and the idea that rarity isn't always about age or precious metal. Sometimes rarity is about perfection. Sometimes it's about being the one coin that escaped wear when millions of others did not. So the next time you're sorting through change or flipping through an old collection, don't rush past the late 1960s quarters. Take your time, tilt them in the light, look for sharp details, glowing surfaces, and that unmistakable sense of freshness. Because the coin everyone else ignores might just be the one that carries a five-figure surprise. Next up, the 1971 Washington quarter with no mint mark may seem like just another piece of pocket change. From the early 70s, but in its rarest, highest-grade form, this modest coin has shocked the market with values reaching as high as $23,200. By 1971, America had fully embraced the new era of clad coinage. The days of silver quarters were already a distant memory, and the mint was focused on producing massive quantities of copper nickel, coins to keep up with everyday demand. Philadelphia, which did not place a mint mark on its coins, struck enormous numbers of quarters that year. They flooded into circulation, passing through gas stations, movie theaters, school cafeterias, and grocery stores, becoming part of the background of daily life. Most of them were worn down, scratched, and dulled long before anyone ever thought of them as collectibles. But within that ocean of ordinary coins lies a story of extraordinary survival. A tiny fraction of 1971 quarters never entered circulation at all. They were saved in original mint sets, tucked away in paper rolls, or preserved by someone who simply liked the look of a brand new coin. These survivors are the ones that now capture the attention of advanced collectors, because finding a 1971 quarter in truly pristine condition is far more difficult than the mintage numbers suggest. Imagine holding one of these top-tier examples under a bright light. The surface doesn't just shine, it glows. The fields are smooth and reflective, sending ribbons of light across the coin as you tilt it. Washington's portrait shows sharp, confident detail, with crisp lines in the hair and clean definition along the cheek and jaw. The lettering stands tall and square, each letter perfectly formed. Turn the coin over, and the eagle appears bold and powerful, with feather detail that looks sculpted rather than stamped. The wings are fully separated, the breast feathers well defined, and the background fields free of distracting marks. This level of quality doesn't happen by accident. Early 1970s quarters often suffered from weak strikes, contact marks from mass production, and storage issues that left many examples with dull or cloudy surfaces. That's why coins that achieve mint state, 67 or higher, are so fiercely sought after. At that level, you're no longer dealing with a common coin, you're dealing with a rarity measured in single digits or low double digits on population reports. When one of these elite specimens appears at a major auction, it becomes a focal point for competition. Collectors who specialize in high grade Washington quarters understand how difficult it is to upgrade their sets with a top population piece from 1971. Bidding can climb rapidly as each participant knows they may not see another opportunity. Like it for years. This is how a coin that once bought a soda can suddenly command a price tag reaching into the tens of thousands of dollars. There's also the element of visual appeal that can elevate a great coin into a legendary one. Some of the most desirable 1971 quarters display subtle, natural toning, soft golds, pale blues, or gentle champagne hues that frame the design and give it depth and character. This kind of toning develops over time in proper storage conditions and is prized because it adds uniqueness without compromising the coin's pristine surfaces. When you combine eye-catching color, a sharp strike, and near-perfect preservation, you get a coin that stands out even among other high-grade examples. What makes this story especially exciting is how accessible the search still is. These quarters are not ancient artifacts locked away in museums. They're modern coins that can still be found in old mint sets, inherited collections, and sometimes even forgotten rolls in desk drawers. The key is learning to slow down and look closely. A 1971 quarter that appears unusually clean, bright, and sharply detailed deserves a second glance. Even if it doesn't reach the absolute top grade, high-quality uncirculated examples can still be worth far more than face value. Now picture the moment of discovery. You open an old envelope of coins that hasn't been touched in decades, and there it is, a 1971 quarter that looks almost too perfect to be real. You send it off for professional grading, and weeks later it returns, sealed in a holder that places it among the finest known examples. Suddenly, you're not just holding a coin, you're holding a piece of modern, numismatic history, a survivor from a massive production run that beat the odds and emerged nearly flawless. The 1971 Washington quarter with no mint mark represents more than just a year and a denomination. It represents the idea that rarity can be hidden inside the most ordinary objects. It's proof that value isn't always about age, precious metal, or dramatic errors. Sometimes value is about perfection, preservation, and the quiet thrill of finding something extraordinary where no one else thought to look. So the next time you're sorting through change or flipping through an old coin album, don't skip over the early 1970s. Let the light hit each coin. Look for that clean glow, those sharp lines, that sense of freshness that sets a gem apart from the rest. Because somewhere out there, a 1971, Quarter is waiting to surprise its next owner with a story and a value that reaches far beyond 25 cents. Next up, the 1986 Washington Quarter with the D. Mint mark comes from an era that feels almost too recent to be collectible. Yet in its rarest, highest-grade form, this unassuming coin has stunned the market with prices climbing as high as $18,400. In 1986, the Denver Mint was running at full speed, striking millions of quarters to keep up with the everyday needs of a growing, fast-moving country. These coins poured into circulation and became part of daily life almost instantly. They were fed into parking meters, dropped into jukeboxes, and scooped up by cashiers without a second glance. Most of them were marked and marred within days of leaving the mint, acquiring the tiny scratches and contact marks that quietly erase any chance of future premium value. That's what makes the survival of a top-tier 1986 D quarter so extraordinary. To reach the highest levels of grading, a coin must have escaped all of that. It must have avoided the rough handling of circulation, the friction of coin-to-coin contact in bags and rolls, and the environmental exposure that dulls surfaces over time. Only a handful managed to stay in nearly perfect condition, preserved in mint sets, original rolls, or collections where they were carefully stored away from harm. Now imagine what one of these elite examples looks like in your hand. The moment light touches it, the surface comes alive. The fields shimmer with a clean, glassy brilliance reflecting like a polished mirror. Washington's portrait is sharp and confident, every strand of hair clearly defined, the cheek and jaw smooth and free of marks. The lettering rises crisply from the surface, bold and squared without softness or wear. Flip it over and the eagle stands proud, wings fully detailed, feathers crisp and layered. The shield line strong and complete. There's a sense of depth and clarity that immediately tells you this. Coin is something special. What makes the 1986 D quarter particularly challenging for collectors is the nature of modern minting itself. High-speed production can create microscopic imperfections, and even coins that were never circulated often show tiny marks from being jostled in bags or tubes. That's why examples that achieve mint state 67 or higher are so scarce. At that level, you're dealing with coins that are not just uncirculated, but nearly flawless under magnification. When one of these high-grade 1986 D quarters appears at auction, it draws attention from specialists who focus on building the finest possible Washington Quarter sets. These collectors track population reports, study strike quality, and compete for top-ranking examples. A single-point upgrade can be the difference between a respectable coin and a crown jewel. That's where the bidding intensity comes from, and that's how a quarter from the 1980s can climb into five-figure territory. Visual appeal plays a powerful role here as well. Some of the most desirable specimens show subtle, natural toning that adds warmth and personality to the coin. Soft golds or faint blues can trace the rims or highlight the contours of Washington's portrait and the eagle's wings. This kind of toning, combined with blazing luster and clean surfaces, can elevate a coin from technically impressive to truly breathtaking in the eyes of collectors. What makes this story even more exciting is how close these coins still are to everyday life. Unlike century-old pieces locked away in vaults, 1986 quarters are modern enough that they still turn up in old jars, desk drawers, and inherited collections. Someone might have saved a roll decades ago, without realizing what perfection could one day be worth. That means the possibility of discovery is still very real. Picture opening a forgotten coin tube and finding a stack of quarters that look untouched, their surfaces still glowing as if they were struck yesterday. You send one in for professional grading, hoping for a strong result, and it comes back certified among the finest known examples. In that moment, the coin's identity changes. It's no longer just a piece of change from the Reagan era. It's a top-tier collectible, a standout in a national registry, and a coin that can command thousands of dollars from serious buyers. The 1986 Washington Quarter with the D. Mint mark tells a story about modern rarity. It shows that age alone doesn't define value. Preservation does. Survival does. It's about being the one coin that slipped through decades of handling without losing its original beauty. The one that still carries the sharpness and glow of the day it left the mint. So the next time you hear the familiar jingle of quarters in a jar or feel the weight of one in your palm, don't dismiss it because it looks too new. Let the light play across the surface. Look for that mirror-like shine, the crisp edges, the sharp details that set a gem apart. Because even a coin from the 1980s can hold a story and a potential value that reaches far beyond its humble 25-cent face. If you're hooked on uncovering these hidden modern treasures, make sure you like, follow, and subscribe to State Quarter for more deep dives into coins that transform every day, change into extraordinary discoveries. The next standout coin might already be sitting in your home, waiting for you to notice what makes it truly special.